Hello and welcome back. My name is Dr. Duncan and I'm with the Alcohol Substance Abuse Program. Next slide, please. So today we're going to talk about alcohol and drug awareness, and these are the guidelines for avoiding high-risk situations that alcohol and drugs can lead to. So first of all, when you're drinking with alcohol, we're talking about alcohol, because alcohol is the only legal drug that we are allowed to use if you work for the federal government. So active duty and civilian, alcohol is the only legal drug that you're allowed to use for recreational purposes. The guidelines are, for a lot of people, the best thing to do is not drink. It may be better for your health. It's definitely better not to drink and drive, because that will get you in a lot of trouble. And I'll talk more about that as we go through the slides. The idea is to drink no more than 1 an hour. And I know that most people have heard that, but it does matter if you eat while you're drinking, because that helps slow the absorption of the alcohol down. And then you want to make sure that you don't go over the limit, that you maintain your ability to function and that you don't drink too much. And everybody has different tolerance levels, but your blood alcohol level will go up the more you drink. And some people have a high tolerance, so they need to be aware of that. And even though they may not feel the effects, they still have alcohol in their system, and it is affecting their perceptions and their thought processes. Prescription drugs, that is becoming a real problem, that people are getting addicted to them. If you have a prescription, only take it during the time that it is prescribed. You cannot save it. If you have some Darvon or some of the other very effective and great drugs, when you need them, if you're in pain, that work effectively, you cannot save them if you have a few left over. You need to give them back to the hospital, and you need to get rid of them. Don't flush them down the toilet either. That is not the best way to get rid of prescription drugs. When it expires, and I'm talking about your prescription expiring, not the actual medicine. You only take your medicine as prescribed, not in advance, not over the limit, only when it is prescribed, because it will show up in a drug test. When you do your urinalysis, these drugs will show up, and they will check with your medical records to make sure that you were authorized to take them. And if you're not, then it is the same as if you took other illegal drugs like marijuana and cocaine and a whole host of other drugs. When we're talking about dietary supplements, and especially CBD products, be careful, because even though they're below, there's a loophole, and they're slightly below the level for the THC, they will show up on a drug test. And you're not supposed to use CBD oils. So you will be in trouble. While it won't be a criminal problem, it could be a career problem. And you'll have to do a lot of other things. And the same goes with other types of illegal drugs. And then vaping is becoming a really big issue for health and safety. Next slide, please. So when you get a DUI, which a DUI is 0.08 on the blood alcohol level. And these are the consequences of a DUI. Now, the biggest thing that's been happening in our area is that people are not necessarily reaching the 0.08. What they're getting arrested for and stopped for is a DUI less than safe. So in Georgia, that if you have any alcohol in your system and you are caught driving, then you are considered a DUI, that you're driving under the influence. And it is a big deal that you should not be driving. There is a zero tolerance on post. And if you're caught in any kind of incident downtown and you have any alcohol in your system at all, even if you're under the legal limit, it does become a real problem, and it's part of the complaint. So if you get stopped for a broken taillight, or if you have a fender bender, even if it's not your fault, and you are found to have alcohol in your system, then you are a DUI. You have a problem. And one of the things that the other person can do is say, which they have a point, is that if you had not been drinking, you would have been able to stop faster, or you might not have slammed on your brakes quite so quickly, because your perception and your reflexes change when you have alcohol in your system. And we all recognize that alcohol is a drug. We take it because it changes the way we feel. That's on purpose. That's why we drink. And how we do that, if we do it at home after work and we do it with responsibly, where it doesn't affect our family and our emotions and the people around us and our careers and all the things that we value, then it is less of a problem. Next slide, please. So here's some of the things that can happen if you get a DUI. So we talk about off base and then on base. And I guarantee you, everyone that I see, it's very expensive. So it is not worth it. It is much cheaper to get Uber, Lyft, a taxi. Even if you have a friend drive you, and if they're under the influence, even though you may not think they are, then you can still have issues. Because if they get stopped and if everybody in the car is drunk, then there will be a problem and you will all be in trouble. But off base, you can see it, at least $1,500 and jail time. You won't have your vehicle. You don't have your license. You have a whole bunch of other fees, $25,000 in other fees. And then if you're on post, you're probably going to get an Article 15. Even if you have it off base, you're probably going to get an Article 15. You won't be allowed to drive on post at all. You could get court-martialed. You could be barred from re-enlisting, and then you could have a separation or lose some rank. So these are all the problems of drinking and driving. And that is the biggest issue that we see now, is people drinking and driving. Now, sometimes people also get into fights as well. And that is because alcohol changes the way we think. It changes the way we feel. Next slide, please. Nobody plans to get a DUI. Nobody says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a couple of drinks with my friends, and then I'm going to go out and I'm going to purposely either hurt someone because I hit them with my car, or I want to get stopped by the police. So one of the things that people need to think about, and I strongly suggest that you start to think about it, is how and when is the best time to use alcohol. As I said earlier, for some people, it's never. For other people, they can do it when it's in the right time and place. And you have to figure out what that is. And if you need any help, we have lots of programs. You can call the ASAP building and we can get you to the right places. There's SUDC, which is the substance abuse counselors. They can help you. You can talk to family advocacy. You can talk to ACS, behavioral health. Your MFLAC, if you have any MFLACs in your unit, military family life consultant, they will be more than happy to help you. There are resources in the civilian community just to talk to somebody. Alcoholics Anonymous, Military One Source. But I strongly recommend that if you feel that you have a problem with alcohol or any drug, is to let someone know now. Because if you do it before you get into trouble, you can be helped and you won't have any repercussions. If you wait until after you get in trouble, you will get the help, but you also have to deal with the problem, the behavior problem that you committed, the incident. You'll have to deal with that and all that goes along with that. But there is no shame in asking for help. I have never heard, and I've had people tell me that they have never had any clearances taken away. They've never lost their flying privileges. They've never lost anything when they turned themselves in and asked for help. So that's an important part of this, is that everyone in the Army wants everyone in the Army to be healthy and productive. And readiness is not going to happen if you're not healthy and able to do it. So please, if you need any help, get some help. Next slide, please. So the other thing that we need to talk about is suicide. Suicide is higher in the military than it is in the civilian community. And one of the reasons for that is because suicide happens more among younger people and among the very older, much older. And the military is highly condensed. We're highly overrepresented by younger people. We're not overrepresented by older people, but younger people. And suicide is a problem in the Army, and it is one that leadership and everyone is taking very seriously. I'm sure that most of you have seen this poster. No one is alone. You, as co-workers, as fellow soldiers, are the ones that can help someone if they need help. And I'm going to give you some pointers on how you can do that. It's quick. And if you want more information, please come and ask for more. Next slide, please. So I'm sure most of you have seen the ACE cards. We put them all around. So the biggest thing is to remember that it is okay if you have someone that you work with or you know, it's okay to ask them if they feel like they're going to kill themselves. You are not going to give them the idea. There is no way you're going to ask someone if they want to kill themselves, and they're suddenly going to go, wow, that's a really good idea. I should have thought of that myself. They're not going to do that. If you ask them, and when you ask it, you have to be serious. You can't be joking around. You know, if they're telling you something bad's going on in their life and you're joking about stuff, and then you ask the question when you're joking, they're not going to tell you anything ever, ever. They will never tell you. And if something happens, you're going to feel terrible, and it would be a great waste. So it's okay to ask them if they feel like they want to hurt themselves. Or if you can point blank say, are you thinking about killing yourself? And if they say yes, your job is only to get them to someone who can help them. You are not supposed to save them. You don't leave them alone. Make sure that everybody's safe. You know, you listen, you care, but you have to find someone, your first sergeant, the chaplain, take them to the emergency room, to your supervisor. That's what your MFLAT, your military family life counselor. Get them to somebody who can take charge and get them to where they need. Don't let them be by themselves. If you're in their house and they have guns or knives, if you're able to, get rid of them, move them away to where they can't use them, and you never leave them alone. You get them to where somebody can help. And again, I can't emphasize it enough. Nobody expects you to save that person. What they do expect is for you to get them to somebody that can help them. Next slide, please. So here are some of the signs, and there are a lot on this list, and you can read them. But the big thing is that basically if somebody tells you that they think that killing themselves is the best thing for them to do, then they probably are serious. And we should treat it like that. Even if they are just saying it because they want attention, that doesn't happen very often. People think it is, because if somebody wants attention by saying that they want to kill themselves, there's something going on, and we need to address that. If they tell you they don't have any reason to live, if they feel like they are trapped, things are happening, a lot of situations are going on, and they feel like there's no way out. If you start noticing changes in behavior, either they are becoming more aggressive or they're really tired all the time. And we know that there's different life changes can happen. Different things can happen in our lives, different behaviors, but when it's excessive. So if they're sleeping a lot, if they're not coming out when they would hang out at lunchtime, or they'd go out with you after work, or they were just more in the group and now they're not in the group, these are signs, and you need to let someone know. Let your supervisor know. If they start using alcohol and drugs more than you've ever seen them do, that's a sign that something's going to happen. If you ever know that they are looking for ideas about killing themselves, that's another sign. So there are a lot of things. Any kind of major change in behavior, you need to be aware of. And then, of course, mood goes along with the changes in behavior. If they're depressed, or if they're really angry, or if suddenly they get really better all of a sudden. They were really sad and depressed, and then suddenly they have relief, that may mean that they've made a decision about what to do next. And suicide was the answer they came up with. So it's really about just knowing the people that you're working with, the people you live with, and the people that you care about. Next slide, please. So what suicide is caused by a lot of different things that can happen. Some of it is internal, and some of it is definitely external. We all have life stressors. Through these briefings, you've been talking about the fact that you've been away from home. That could be a life stressor. If you already are suffering from some kind of mental issue, depression and anxiety are the most common, and a lot of people have them. If you're in pain, you have physical pain, you hurt yourself, you had surgery and it's not getting any better, your job, and some stressors are good stressors. You got a promotion, you had a new baby, you just got married. All of these things can be stressors, and it can just be too much for some people depending on what else is going on and what else is in their life. A promotion is a great thing, but you may somewhere feel like you're not ready for it. And most people aren't. Most people aren't ready for it. You have a new baby. Babies are wonderful, but they never want to sleep. So if you're not getting enough sleep and your baby is always crying and you don't know what to do, and everybody in the family is stressed out, your marriage may be suffering because of the baby, the newness of it, and you're trying to figure it out. All of these things can really impact a person, and everyone is different. So different stressors impact people differently. And just because you may have done it well, and it's great to offer suggestions, but just understand that your coworker is not you, and they may have other things in their lives that are going on that impact them and may make them feel suicidal. Next slide. A lot of risk, and there's so many risk factors. So health, I already mentioned some of these. Health factors, a mental depression, you could have other, conduct disorders, anxiety disorders, but also if you have anxiety disorders and then you suddenly have an illness, or your family member has an illness, that can impact how you're feeling. Environmental factors. If somebody has tried to kill themselves before, they might want to try again. If your job changes, I already mentioned relationship problems. And if you've had other different events in your life that are just piling up. One of the people previously talked about financial issues. That may add up. And these things do not happen just when you come back from a deployment. In reality, oftentimes suicides don't happen when most people think they're going to. People think that they happen around the holidays, Christmas, and they happen after a deployment, and that's not always the case. Majority of the time, it doesn't happen around the holidays, and it doesn't happen right after a deployment. It takes a while before people start succumbing to the stressors. And then, of course, his family history. And this is one of the things that we need to be aware of, not of individual, but when we're trying to understand our coworkers and our fellow soldiers, is that you may not understand everything that's going on in their life. You don't know what history they have, what baggage they're carrying, what's going on, in addition to these other environmental stressors. We are all different. And one thing that might not stress one person out totally can stress out somebody else. Next slide, please. Here's a lot more resources that are available to each and every one of you. The chaplain, I already mentioned the chaplain when we were talking about substance abuse. The hospital is definitely there. You can get an appointment. You can go to the emergency room. But this is even if you feel like you are suicidal. And of course, if you think somebody else is. 911, if you are worried that you might hurt yourself or you really think you're going to do something, you can dial 911 and they will come and get you. And then, of course, your behavioral health officer is always a resource. There is the suicide prevention program that is in my office. You can call us and we can give you resources and information. And then there is a suicide hotline, and that is a national hotline. So that is not associated with the military or any governmental agency. That is a free nonprofit, and it is available 24 hours a day. And then there's another one, the DOD, that is a government one, but it is there when there are people who have, military people who have survived suicide, and they are there to talk. And then, of course, Vets for Warrior, Military One Source are both resources that are available to each and every one of you. Next slide. So before I end, I want to make a important point, get a little melodramatic, but everybody here is different. We are all unique, and everybody has their own story to tell. And the sad thing is that when one person kills themselves, their story can't be told, and their story affects everybody else. So we need to try and prevent each and every suicide. We don't want any suicides to happen ever again. Thank you. Welcome back.
Okay, hey, first of all, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hey, first of all, on behalf of the Transition Program, hey, I want to welcome all you back. We appreciate your service and what you do for our country and what you're going to continue to do for our country. I'll briefly go through some slides, and the intent of my slides is just to get you guided in the right direction on the requirements of the Transition Program. Next slide, please. So why we got a transition program? Our program is here to basically, the overarching program of transitions to get you situated to where we're giving you all the necessary information and support you need to successfully transition from military service. One of the criteria we need to make sure that for your situation awareness in accordance with AR 600-81, the Army Directive 2019-26 basically outlines that all National Guard and Reserve soldiers serving over 180 days of continuous duty pursuant to the Title 10 must complete the TAP process. National Guard soldiers under Title 32 does not have to complete the process. So basically, when we say the process, our brain get to spinning and we're saying, well, what are we talking about? How much of this is a process that we need to do? The next couple of slides is going to give you a general description and an outline on what we need you to accomplish and how we need you to get it, get done with it. Next slide, please. So this slide right here just to give you a situation awareness of what you're going to need to do, and this doesn't the months in each phases does not apply to you as a reserve soldier transitioning out. But what does apply to you is the process you're going to go through. If you look at the registration phase, this is what we want you to do right now. Upon hearing our voices across this integration briefing and across your preparation to start coming to the demo, we want you to complete the registration. We want you to register. We want the virtual center to complete your self-assessment as well as your initial counseling and get you guided on the pre-separation briefing. Once you complete these tasks, this is going to set you up for what type of transition you're going to need to complete, which goes into the type of workshops that's going to be needed to complete. These workshops are going to be based on what your tier rating is going to be. And we'll talk a little more in depth as we go forward about your tier rating. The last part with regards to career skills, we're not necessarily going to touch too much on that because most of you are going back to your previous occupation status that you had before your activation. What we want to do is make sure we get your capstone. You're going to hear the phrase capstone presented a lot. The capstone is no more than where we're going through. We're verifying your records to ensure that you completed the TAP requirements in accordance with your tier rating. Next slide, please. So here's a simple process. We go through registration, right? As you go to the website, the link above, right? We just simply want you to go to hit the login button. The login button is going to give you a DS login prompt. Just hit the OK. It's going to take you to the access to CAC. Tell it you click on the CAC. Just tell you you're utilizing your CAC. Next slide, please. It's going to prompt you to choose a profile. And once you come to this DS login, you're going to see the Soldier for Life Transition Program button there. Just toggle on the button. Once you toggle on the button is going to ask you your information regarding your personal identified information to get you registered. Once you complete your registration, the next thing we want you to do is dial the 1-800 number, get a hold to the virtual center, and let them know that you have completed your registration. Once you become in contact with the virtual center, they're going to they're going to go through and verify your file and get your file aligned in the system and get you guided toward the pre-separation briefing, as well as get you aligned with your tier rating and your initial counseling. Once that is completed, you're going to be free to go forward and continue on completing whatever training necessary to meet your particular tier rating. Next slide, please. Once you get your tier rating, you're going to be directed to go complete your workshops on our transition online portal. We do have a transition online learning platform, and once you go to the event, the URL that's located on the slide is going to take you to all your courses that you need to complete, that are required to complete based off your tier rating. When you finish talking with your counselor through the virtual center, they're going to align you with what particular courses that you need to take, again, that aligns with your tier rating. A lot of these courses are designed to be flexible to meet your learning schedules. I know there's a lot of things going on as we continue to start the process of demobbing, but based off your tier rating, as well as the virtual platform that's there for you, one of our expectations is to have you as close as to completing your workshops based off your tier rating prior to you hit the demo station. In the event you have not completed when you hit the demo station, we do have support agencies available. We have things set up to where the next thing we want to do is get your boots on the ground and get you completed across your workshops that need to be completed to where we can get you successfully demoed, as well as to get you completed across the TAP requirements for your demobilization. Next slide, please. So how you going to do that? When you get to the transition online, there's 3 steps we want you to do. You simply go in and log in. It's going to ask you some simple things. Get started with the courses. Select the courses that aligns with the work, with your tier rating, and what courses that you're supposed to complete. Once you complete the courses, right, the system is set up to where it's going to automatically track and associate your completion to your record, right? The record I'm referring to is your electronic form, DD form 2648. Which is the form you're going to need to complete your mobilization status with regards to the TAP program. Now, within the TOL itself, right, the TOL, if you have to stop and come back to it, the TOL will take you right back to where you left off at, right? But the most important thing is you have to register, okay? You have to register. If you don't register, you're not going to get credit for the workshops and or training completed. The system is set up to where your training completed, your workshops and your courses completed. It's automatically going to populate your electronic form, your DD form 2648. The time from you're leaving your current duty station to the demo is the time we're going to be in the background verifying this completions has associated with your records. And once we get these completions associated with your record, we're going to initiate your DD form 2648. Some of you have already completed it. That's fine. That's great. That's okay. That's what we want to do. Once these completions populate the form, we're going to close your form out. We'll have your form routed to your commander that's assigned to you, and your commander will sign your form, and you will be done. Our intent is to have the majority of you prior to hitting demo station to have this requirement completed to where we can get you additional time to get other aspects of mobilization completed. Next slide, please. So last slide, what can we do together? I need leaders to get everyone registered. I need leaders to register as well too. When we get everybody registered to get the training complete associated with a tier, we're in a good space. Inform your subordinates about the virtual center. When you connect with the virtual center, ensure that we're letting the personnel on the other end know that you have employment on the other end. You're going back to college and or you're a business owner. Make sure we're letting the virtual center personnel there know that. This is going to help with your tier ratings. Okay, so the higher your tier rating, the less work you have to do. And if you have things like employment on the other end that you're going back to and it's confirmed, then that's where we want to be, because we want to minimize your course needed to completion when you hit the ground at the demo station. What we also want you to do, we also want your leadership to reach back to us down here for Stewart where you're going to demo. We need to make sure that we're tracking the necessary commanders in charge of soldiers to where once your course completion is completed, we're routing your completion form to the right commanders. So leaders that's listening among my voice, we need you guys to reach back to us and ensure we're tracking the right chain of leadership to where we can get these forms routed to the right people at the right time and it gets done properly. And the last thing we can do, hey, is we can all collaborate on this make this effort as seamless as possible. We need leaders to help us make sure we have the right oversight and provide soldiers the right direction. But more importantly, at a time like this, when everybody's ready to go home, we need leaders to help us resolve the friction points. If there's some things about what we're doing as installation to support this demobilization that you may not be familiar with, we're here to help you. We just need you to collaborate with us and help us understand what your problem is to where we get you the right answer and get the situation resolved. Next slide, please. Hey, I appreciate your time. You guys have a great Soldier for Life Day.
Good afternoon. My name is Ms. Ramos. I'm with the Finance Office, and I'll be providing your briefing. Next slide, please. First of all, we want to welcome you back and thank you for your service. This briefing was going to give you the basic military pay and travel pay information for all Army, National Guards, and Reserve soldiers demobilizing from active duty. Next slide. An important document that you utilized when you mob was the Annex E. It's the same document we will use when you demob. If you do not have your Annex E, we will provide a blank form for you to fill out. You will fill out the top portion, which is your admin information. Then you will sit down with a military pay technician and we'll review all your pay with you at that time and answer any questions you may have. Next slide. If you were in a deployed location and we're entitled to any of these entitlements, such as combat zone tax exclusion, imminent danger pay, hardship duty pay for location, or special leave accrual, these entitlements will stop when you deployed from that location. Next slide. All soldiers that were mobilized receive base pay, basic allowance for subsistence, basic allowance for housing, and enlisted members may be entitled to enlisted clothing allowance if they were on active duty more than 6 months. All of these entitlements will stop at the end of your tour. Those soldiers receiving some special pay, such as cost of living allowance, special duty assignment pay, foreign language proficiency bonus, medical and dental pay would also stop and at the end of your tour. If you were receiving family separation allowance, that one is going to stop the day prior to arriving at your home station. Next slide. If a soldier was hospitalized or rehospitalized for at least 24 hours because of a wound or a disease or an injury that they incurred in a combat zone, they would be entitled to combat zone tax exclusion for the time that they are hospitalized, and it would stop when they get discharged. This cannot exceed more than 2 years. Next slide. Leave is very important. This is one of the steps that we will have to compute so you can get off orders. So all soldiers coming to finance will need to come with their leave verification memo signed by the commander and the soldier. We will use this to verify all the leave that the soldier took while they were mobilized and make sure it's posted on their account. Leave is accrued for every 30 days. You accrue 2.5 days, and any prorated period, you accrue half a day for every 6 days. If a soldier would like to take transitional leave at the end of the tour or paternity leave, they should also come with a DA-31 to finance. Next slide. Leave. When we compute the leave at the end of your tour, you basically have 3 options. The first one is you could carry that leave forward if you're going to go on another active duty tour. You can take that transitional leave, or you may cash out that leave if you have not exceeded the 60 days max for your career. Transition leave must be taken within the dates of immobilization. That's to say, you cannot go past the end date of your orders. If you're coming from a restricted tour, then it may pass. If you want to cash in leave, you can only cash out your base pay, no allowances, unlike transitional leave, which you get paid base pay and allowances. When you cash in leave, you also have to pay Uncle Sam 22% federal tax, and any state tax may apply also. That 60-day max that I stated that you can cash out in your career does not apply if it's leave you accrued in a contingency operation. Any military technician on leave do not have to wait to the end of their orders to go back to their technician status. Next slide. If you are participating in the savings deposit program, you may leave the money in the program up to 90 days to accrue interest for that last quarter. Prior to asking for the money to come out of that deposit program, we recommend that you verify the amount that you have put into it by checking on MyPay. If it's incorrect or if there's a deposit missing, you should send your cash collection voucher, which was used to make the deposit, copy of that voucher to that email address. To make the withdrawal from the program, you could do that either by emailing, faxing, utilizing MyPay, or sending a request through the mail. We recommend using MyPay. If you utilize any of the other three methods, you must include in your request your name, your social, your branch, the EFT information, and your signature. And if you would prefer to have a check versus EFT, just make sure you provide a mailing address. And there is that helpline number to call if you have any further questions. Next slide. The forms that you will need to come to finance when you see us is copy of your MOB orders. If you were deployed, copy of your TCS orders and any amendments. The Annex E that we previously stated, and if you don't have it, we'll provide a blank one for you. If you're going to take transitional leave or paternity leave or PDMR, you also must come with a DA-31 for that leave. Like we stated earlier, your leave verification memo. If you have PDMRA, you have to bring the calculator that was provided to you by your unit. And if you want to make any changes to your pay, also bring those pay changing documents, such as if you got married during your tour and it hasn't updated on your account, you would need a 5960 signed by you and your commander with a copy of your marriage certificate. So any changes to your pay, bring those forms also. At that time, you're going to sit down with a finance technician and they will go over your account and they will answer any questions that you have. If you are an AGR soldier, at that point, when you sit down with a finance technician, just let that technician know. Next slide. Now we're going to go over your travel claim. Next slide. To be paid your travel pay for your mobilization, you will submit a DD Form 1351-2, and the only version that you can use is May of 2011. All previous versions are obsolete. You will fill in your admin information, such as your name, grade, social security number, your mailing address, email address. You will, box 5, you will mark TDY and member and other. Provide your daytime telephone number. The travel order number in box 8 is off of your MOB orders. If you received any accrual payments or any advances, you would annotate that in box 9. And 11 is your unit address. Next slide. Box 15 is the itinerary box. It has 4 columns that you will complete. Column alpha is the date column. At the right below date, you would put the year that covers your travel. So if you cross over calendar year, put the 2 years, such as 2020 to 2021. Then right below it, you would put the day and month you departed. And in column Bravo, you would put your home of record. Then you would go back to column Alpha for arrival and put the day and month you arrive. In column Bravo, you put your home station. And so forth. You will continue to go back between Alpha and Bravo, putting the day and month you depart and the day and month you arrive. And the location will go from your home station to your MOB station, from your MOB station to your deployed location or the place that you were sent to on all your orders. If you took leave, you should annotate this on your travel voucher because you're not entitled to any travel pay when you're in a leave status. Once your leave is over and you go back to your station where you were sent to on your orders, then beneath that, the next location will be your demob station, in this case, Fort Stewart, and below that, your home station. In column Charlie, which is the mean modes of travel, you will fill out the non-shaded areas by utilizing 2 characters. In the back of the form, they have a legend for you to follow. The first one that in this example is a POV, so Papa Alpha is for a private auto. The next one below it is because the soldier was in a bus that was a military bus paid by the military. The next one, the soldier was in a plane, so the government paid for it, so Gulf Papa. Below it, you see Charlie Papa. That was a plane that the actual soldier had to pay for that one, out of pocket, commercial plane. In column Delta, again, you fill out the non-shaded boxes by looking at the back of your DD form 1351-2 to find the codes. They're going to be 2 characters. And that is the reason why you're stopping at that location that corresponds with column Bravo. So when you're at your home station, your TDY, so it's Tango Delta, and your TDY when you go to your mob station, and when you're at your location where they sent you, you're also TDY, so Tango Delta. When you go on leave, that would be Lima Victor. And you will continue to do that until you get home. Next slide. If you have any reimbursable expenses, you would claim that in box 18 by filling out the first 3 columns. The first column is the date, Bravo is the nature of your expense, and Charlie is the amount of that expense. Next slide. If you run out of spaces in your itinerary, box 15, you can utilize DD form 1351-2 Charlie, which is a continuation, and you would just pick up your first location on the Charlie form is the last location that was on your 1351-2, and just take it to all the way till you make it home. Next slide. Behind the backside of the DD form 1351-2 is the remarks, annotate all the leave periods that you've taken or anything else that is travel related that may not be straightforward or easy to understand on the front side. Next slide. To submit your travel claim, you will submit that DD form 1351-2, copy of your orders and amendments, a copy of the DD form 214 or your refread orders. If you went on a further TDY trip on a DD form 1610 that applies to you, you would include that also. If you were on TCS orders, include that and amendments to those orders. If any claim, reimbursable claim you have is over $75, you will need an actual receipt for it. If you are trying to get paid for any lodging expense, you need a receipt for that regardless of the dollar amount. If you receive any advances or any accrued payments during this mobilization, show that payment. And copies of all the leave forms that you took while you were on this boat. Next slide. To submit your claim, you have 3 methods. The first one is actually mailing it. The second one is the one that we recommend, where you scan all your documents and you email it. And the third one is faxing. If you have any questions, there's a customer service telephone number or an email address you can reach out. And we also have additional travel guidance you can find online. Next slide. If you were issued an Eagle Cash card and you still have money on it, we recommend that you unload the funds. And if you haven't done so, we do not have a kiosk on Fort Stewart. So we recommend that you call the 1-800 number that's behind the card, and it will unload the funds. Or once the card expires, it will also unload and be sent back to your bank, any money that's left on the card. Next slide. Thank you for everything you do, and we will have a technician sit down with you and answer all your questions and make sure that you will be paid accurately. Thank you.
Hello to everyone. Welcome back and thank you for your service. I am Miss Bethany Morgan with the Soldier and Family Legal Services Center, or as most know it, the Legal Assistance Office. I'm just going to take a few minutes to discuss the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or USAR. Next. So what is USARA? USARA is a federal law that is applicable to all employers. So basically, it is job rights for any individual who voluntarily or involuntarily leave their employment positions to perform service in the uniformed services. How can it help you? It provides reemployment rights after your military service, prohibits any discrimination based on your military service, and prohibits retaliation for exercising a right under USARA. Next. So I think this slide may have been sent out of order, but that's fine. This is just our contact information. If you have any problems that occur with reemployment rights, please contact our office. That is our current email address and our building location at 944 William H. Wilson Avenue, Building 620, and our hours. Next. So what services are protected? It is the inactive duty training, active duty training, Army Reserve National Guard Title 32, and active duty. And these are just a few of the common services protected. There are many others, too many to list. For example, funeral duty, or if you have to go for an examination to determine your fitness to perform the above duties, all of those are excusable absences. However, it does not protect the National Guard service under state mobilization. Next. A few other things that USARA does not protect, such as no reasonable expectation employment continue indefinitely or for a significant period. This is a case-by-case determination, but an example is if you were employed and it was a temporary job, and then you left for military service and you returned, there is no guarantee that you will get that job back, such as like painting fences for a home improvement contractor. You may not be entitled to a reemployment at that point. Another one is an independent contractor. USARA does not protect them. And then again, 5 years with a single employer. And we'll discuss the 5 years a little bit further in a minute, but there are exceptions to the 5-year rule. Next. So what is the criteria? You left employment to perform uniformed services or military services. You gave the employer advance notice. We suggest at least 30 days, but there is some wiggle room and flexibility to that. The employee has less than or equal to 5 years of service. Again, that 5-year service is mentioned there. There are some exceptions to this policy. It is determined on a case-by-case analysis, though. Employees' timely return to work, that will be dependent on the length of their military service. Sometimes it's 8 hours to 90 days. So for if you served from 1 to 30 days, you should return to duty at the next work period after you have returned home and had an 8-hour rest period. Employee not separated with disqualifying discharge. It cannot be other than honorable or worse. Next. So what does USARA do? So the employer must provide to you reemployment at the same or similar position. So if for some reason your position is no longer there, or it has been terminated, the employer needs to find a position that is similar to that. Any benefits or promotions that you would have attained had you been there and not doing military service, you are eligible for. Any makeup for promotional exams, you are also eligible for. Only for-cause firings for 180 days and up to 1 year. This is mainly talking for those who were disabled while they were on active duty, or disability is aggravated by the military service. The employer must make a reasonable effort to accommodate the disability, And if your period of service was 180 days or more, you are protected from discharge, except for just cause for 1 year. Next. And again, please contact our office. We're Fort Stewart Legal Assistance Office. We also have an office on the Hunter Air Force Base. Both of our offices are ready and willing to help you if you would just give us a call and contact us. Our email address is on our Facebook page as well as on the Garrison website, or you can just come in and talk to us. Again, 944 William H. Wilson Avenue, Building 620, and those are our hours. Next. So that's it for our office. Again, I just want to welcome everybody home. And again, thank you for all of your service.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeff Barnes. I am your Veteran Affairs Benefits and Services lead here at Fort Stewart. And what I want to do right now is just take a couple of minutes to give you a snapshot of a one-on-one what Veteran Affairs Benefits Services are offered here at Fort Stewart. Okay, VA is broken down into three major categories: Veteran Health Administration, National Cemetery Administration, and Veterans Benefit Administration, VBA. That's what we're going to be covering for the next few minutes of the different programs that they offer, such as home loans and housing-related assistance, disability compensation, pension, education and training, employment services, and life insurance. As Mr. Bean mentioned earlier when he was talking about the SFL TAP program, we got to make sure that you create a DS login, because once they capture your cat, you're not going to have accessibilities to this. So in order to create a civilian DS login, the only thing you have to do is go into it, put in a civilian email, and add a passcode to it. As simple as that. Online resources that you're going to find for VA are va.gov, www.va.gov. It's going to be the online resource tool that you're going to use for everything VA. Remember eBenefits? It was a great and wonderful exploring tool that we used to get online to do disability compensations, VA healthcare, educational benefits, military personnel file. Well, it's still there. What has happened is VA has encompassed eBenefits. So now if you go to eBenefits, it's probably going to redirect you to va.gov, www.va.gov. But all the great and wonderful things that eBenefit had done is still there. The number one document that you're going to need for your VA benefits, your Veteran Affairs benefits, is your DD-214, your character of discharge. Make sure you keep this in a nice, dry, safe place, because this is the next thing to your Social Security card that you're going to need. Keep your DD-214 accessible place. Validate all information on your DD-214. And you can also have your DD-214 information validated on identification cards, so you don't have to carry around the paper. You can go into the local VA regional office and find the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs identification card, where they'll put all your information on your card as well as a picture. You can also use a Choose VA Veterans Identification card as well. Let's talk about the types of service connections. There must be medical evidence to support your claim. VA rates service-connected disabilities from 0 to 100% in 10% increments. And the four types of service connections are direct, aggravated, presumptive, and secondary. Keep in mind, disability compensation is a tax-free monetary benefit for those with service-connected disabilities. Payments begin at a rating of 10% or higher. To be eligible for disability compensation, you must have served in a uniformed service on active duty or active duty for training or inactive duty training. Be discharged under other than dishonorable conditions. I'm going to say that again. Be discharged under other than dishonorable conditions. Be at least 10% disabled by an injury or disease that was incurred or an aggravated during active duty for training or inactive duty training. Also want to cover your life insurance programs. Now, as service members, we put a lot of time and effort already into the service group life insurance, the SGLI. Why lose that? Why do not change that over to family service group life insurance, FSGLI, or veteran group life insurance, VGLI? You can do that at your finance office. Service group life insurance. Your SGLI coverage will expire 120 days after separation. It is important to consider your options early because there are strict deadlines to apply. And you can also find this information at www.va.gov. Also want to take a second to mention burial and memorial benefits. With your burial and memorial benefit program, you can have burial benefits, private plot allowances, presidential memorial certificates, pre-need programs, and state veteran cemeteries. Keep in mind, all veteran VA services are ran by state veteran cemeteries, and state government agencies. Educational monetary benefits for survivors, such as your survivors pension program, your survivors independence educational assistance, and the DEA Chapter 35, which is different than your DEA Chapter 36. All of these benefits and survivor programs can be found at va.gov or by simply coming in and having a one-on-one assistance with us in a local office near you. GI Bill overview. Since 1944, the GI Bill has helped pay for education and training programs. The post 9/11 GI Bill, which is now called the Forever GI Bill, is for those who served on active duty after September 10th, 2001. Keep in mind the Montgomery GI Bill, which is different, is still in effect for active duty or selective reserves. The GI Bill covers 2 to 4 years, advanced degree, technical, and on-the-job training. They also cover flight training, certification tests, and much more. Benefits are available to active duty service members of the reserve components, veterans, and family members. Key features are tuition and fees, monthly housing allowances, book supply stipends, yellow ribbon programs, and STEM programs. The 15-year limitation for the 15-year limitation is eliminated for certain groups of people. This is why we call it now the Forever GI Bill. Specific provisions are available for Purple Heart, Frye Scholarship recipients, and changes are made to how the monthly housing allowance is calculated. Let's look at putting in effect to your VA home loan programs. Protecting your investment. Veterans with VA home loans have some of the lowest foreclosure rates in the country. The VA provides delinquency assistance for those in need. Beware of predatory lenders out there, though. People want to make it look like they got the official seal from VA when they're giving you your loans. If there's anything that's in question, go to www.va.gov. If there is anybody that you know of that's in need or in light of being homeless, please pass this information along. Support for the homeless and at-risk veterans. VA offers assistance and resource to help you find medical treatment, employment, transportation, temporary housing, residential treatment programs for substance abuse as well. Please pass this information along. Remember that I mentioned earlier that VA is governed by your state because every state is different. So you might want to go to request a state benefits package from www.va.gov. As you also see, the e-benefits service logo is up here. Like I mentioned earlier, we encompass the e-benefits into www.va.gov. And that concludes my briefing at this time. This is my information. My contact number is 912-767-9015. I'm located right here on Fort Stewart. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me, send me an email, and I can do whatever I possibly can to give you the best assistance the VA has to offer. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. What I wanted to take a quick opportunity to go ahead and let everybody see what the worship opportunities are here on Fort Stewart during your demobilization time here. This was a standard schedule on installation here. There are some other opportunities at Hunter Army Airfield, but for the majority of the people coming through to demob, you will be here at Fort Stewart, and all of these are located on Fort Stewart. Okay, and the last briefing that we're going to receive today for your demobilization briefing process is Family Advocacy Program. So there's some things to remember when it comes to reunion tips. Mr. Cray alluded to this earlier in his briefing. Some key takeaways are that it takes time, and it can be stressful and emotional and overwhelming, not just for the soldier returning home, but the family as well. Some of the key tips here listed, and ultimately, as with anything, communication is the key. Now we're going to discuss what is domestic violence and who is involved. And it's an offense that involves the use, attempted use, or threatened use of force or violence against a person, or a violation of a lawful order issued to the protection or for the protection of a person. And these are some of the things that it involves. All right. Apologize for that, everybody. The slides weren't catching up with the content of what was being briefed. So I'll continue. We talked about the reunion and reintegration tips here. And then back to the previous slide here. Domestic violence can involve current former spouse, persons who share a child, current or former intimate partner with whom the abuser shares or has shared a common domicile. Of note here in the state of Georgia, if a child is within earshot or eyesight of a domestic violence dispute, not only is there an assault charge, there may also be a cruelty to children charge. Most of us have seen this before. It's the cycle of domestic violence. It starts with the honeymoon phase. The abuser may show jealousy, which makes the future victim feel special. And then it builds to tension and eventually to the point where domestic violence occurs. And then shortly following that, apologies are conveyed and discontinuation of the cycle unless it's stopped and reported. And these are some of the trends, and they're not specific to military related events. This is a society issue and common across probably the globe. Incidents could include social media, financial abuse, same-sex relationships. There has been an increase in male reporting. And there are increases in child neglect incidents. So let's just take a second to talk about restricted and unrestricted reporting. This is similar to the sharp briefing that was briefed earlier this afternoon. A victim can make a restricted report to their installation victim advocate, military healthcare providers, and a family advocacy program manager or a chaplain. Note that if it's reported to the chain of command and or the police, those are considered unrestricted automatically. Child abuse. Child abuse defined has 4 categories to it, either emotional, sexual, physical, or neglect, or a combination there of the group of them. So let's talk about neglect first. Defined as a child is deprived of needed age-appropriate care by act or omission of the child's parent, guardian, or caregiver. And these are some of the items that neglect includes. Let's talk sexual abuse and physical abuse of children. Sexual activity with a child for the purpose of sexual gratification of the alleged offender or some other individual, and includes but not limited to the 3 categories below. And then physical abuse is defined as non-accidental trauma or physical injury caused by punching, beating, kicking, biting, burning, or otherwise harming a child. Physical abuse is the most visible form of child maltreatment, and it can include all of the items listed below there. There are multiple resources, not just here in the state of Georgia, but across the United States, and to include resources that you have to you in your units at your home stations. For anybody who is aware of domestic violence or child abuse or been a victim of it, there is resources out there to get help and report. All of the contacts for the briefings you received today are on the first slide of part 1 of this briefing. You can feel free while you're here at Fort Stewart or after you leave to bring these up at any time and contact any of the subject matter experts via email for the respective briefings that you received today. We hope your demobilization process goes smoothly here at Fort Stewart, and we look forward to getting you home to your families as soon as we can possibly do so. Have a great day.